I think anything that you work on should be a learning opportunity, right? Some of those learning opportunities lead to a tangible, successful outcome. Some of them are failures, but certainly you learn from them, and then you kind of have to move on, and you learn from what went wrong and how could it be done better, and then you kind of try again. Just having a generally positive attitude goes a long way. So I try to really create a positive environment, both for myself, for my team members. Because at the end of the day, what's the point of doing all this if you're not going to enjoy it, right? So you really have to make it fun. Yeah, I think anything that you work on should be a learning opportunity, right? Some of those learning opportunities lead to a tangible, successful outcome. Some of them are failures, but certainly you learn from them, and then you kind of have to move on, and you learn from what went wrong and how could it be done better, and then you kind of try again.
Say, for example, I'm a surgeon and I have an idea, and I have some connections with some of the engineers, and we are working together on some to execute that idea. And is there any point where I should take off this project to the next level, like towards pitching it for funding or commercialization or things like that? So what do you think is the ideal point where we can take it off to making it as a startup company, or pitching it to further funding? Or is there anything that any threshold that we should know so that we can make it into the next venture?
Yeah, I think a lot of times people start thinking about making that jump potentially too early. So in other words, they don't quite have a fully baked idea yet, or they don't quite have a prototype yet. It's kind of a pre-prototype in their head, which hasn't actually been developed or executed. But I think it's probably better, in my opinion at least, to think about doing a proof of concept, doing a prototype, or doing some kind of a functional evaluation of it, just to make sure that the feasibility is there before you spend a lot of time and commitment in trying to make it commercial. The other thing that's very helpful, and especially on the academic side, we have a great network through tech transfer, which is a special unit within the university that helps with a lot of this kind of activity. We also have a great commercialization team. And a lot of major universities have access to more administrative support for enabling this. And if for whatever reason your location or your setup doesn't have it, you can certainly collaborate with a colleague who does, and then that can be another great way to bring things to the forefront. Having said that, if you want to do it yourself, I know people who have done it from all over the world, where they've kind of really thought of something and then done a great job by themselves, but it does take a lot of effort to do it, to carry the whole weight on your shoulders.
Okay, thank you for that elaborate answer.
So, Dr. Amit, how does research and innovation work together? Do you choose your research projects such that they end up in product development, or do you first do a research, come across a problem statement, then go for product development to solve that particular problem statement?
Yeah, I have really focused on collaboration and leveraging what's the best around me. So that's been my strategy. So I try to think about, who are the great people who are doing interesting work around me, whether it's in engineering, whether it's in business, whether it's in public health. And then I try to kind of pitch them clinical ideas that are interesting to me to co-develop certain solutions. And some of those solutions may be products or maybe kind of innovations. Some of those solutions may be more concepts that impact public policy and so on. But I think the bottom line is my strategy is to take really brilliant people and try to kind of steer them towards something that I'm interested in and find that synergy. And I think that cusp of two different fields is where a lot of really exciting things happen. And I've been very fortunate to make a lot of great friends as a result of it too.
Yeah, thank you. So, we have a project, say for example, and we wanted to take it off to the next level, and we might have a working prototype, so that it could be explained to our funders. So what will be our next step? Like, should we apply only for the grants, or we can call it ourselves as a startup and get it incubated in some center where they can develop further on this model? Or should we reach our institutional support to make it into a commercial model? Or which one is the best? Because you are an institute where you might have had access to all these things. And in your experience, which works better, going as for a third-party funding or an institutional support? Which one works good?
I think It's quite variable on both the scope of the idea and the product, what the team is, etc. I would say one strategy that you can employ, which is very good, is to develop an advisory board. So develop a group of advisors, which should be diverse, and it should be both some from your institution, some from outside your institution, who can give you ideas and kind of act as a sounding board, because they can evaluate. You may think something is amazing, and they look at it and they say, well, I think this is pretty good, Satish, but we tried this 10 years ago, or it didn't quite work, and here are the reasons, or whatever, right? Or they might say, wow, Satish, this is amazing, this is like something that you should really, you should talk to so and so, you should talk to my friend Giri, and Giri can help you with this, and da 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 da. I think the point is, it's good to, because a lot of times you're so absorbed in a project that you don't see your blind spots, and you don't see the big picture, you don't see the 10,000-foot bird view. So it's important to have somebody kind of mentor you and guide you. And I think the strategy that has worked well for me is the advisory board strategy, where we collect a group of people, some clinicians, some non-clinicians, who really have a good, wise outlook toward things, and then have them kind of give us advice on where do you think this better fits. Because some of these things may better fit with the university route for the technology transfer. Some of these things may better fit with kind of handing it off to somebody else and you being more of a collaborator and cheerleader. And some of these things may better fit as, kind of doing independent deep dive and independent fundraising and incubating it into a startup phase. So really, really, I think it's hard to pin that down. But what's the important thing is having people that you trust kind of giving you advice to get it in the right place.
Okay, thank you. So rather than putting one mind into action, put multiple minds so that all the rejections are nullified before it is getting done. Okay, thank you so much.
This is going to be on the follow-up question for the last question, Dr. Amit. So you spoke about the importance of advisory board. So how do you put together an advisory board? If you are not in a reputed institute like Johns Hopkins, it will be very difficult for us to bring a group of experts together just to advise us. And this is one side of the problem. On the other side, even if we put together a group of experts, how do you disclose your innovation to them? Do you get an NDA signed before discussing, or it's just an altruistic meeting where you expect them to advise you on taking the project forward?
Yeah, I think these are good questions. NDA definitely helps if you're able to do it, but even if you're not, I think most people, there's no idea that's truly novel and innovative. Very few ideas are, even if you may think that something is, the next new thing. Most people who work in a given field have probably thought about a problem. It's more of the implementation, which is the problem. So I think if you are passionate about something and you're kind of excited to implement it or excited to kind of come up with a solution, you certainly should feel comfortable, having an advisor who you trust enough to be able to disclose it to and be able to discuss. You don't necessarily have to give away the entire know-how, but the general big picture, I think, is where it's very helpful. Now, as far as how do you assemble it at different kind of phases in life or different locations, I think most people like being asked for advice. That's human nature. We are social people, right? Even if you're intrinsically quieter person, you tend to be, you have a feeling of honor when somebody asks you to kind of give advice about something that's important. And clearly, I think if you're not going to ask somebody if you felt like they weren't going to be helpful to your cause, so you would probably ask people that you intuitively feel are going to provide you good advice or at least good direction. So as a result, I think sometimes it's the shots at hand, right? So you try somebody and they say, "I'm sorry, I'm too busy, you can't help," or they don't show up or whatever. But most people, are engaged and are able to provide you good advice.
And how do you keep up the motivation of the team?
Yeah, I think anything that you work on should be a learning opportunity, right? Some of those learning opportunities lead to a tangible, successful outcome. Some of them are failures, but certainly you learn from them, and then you kind of have to move on, and you learn from what went wrong and how could it be done better, and then you kind of try again. You really have to think about it as a sport. I think having a team sport attitude where you try to coach people, where you try to encourage them and try to cheerlead for them really is very helpful. The other aspect is people have different motivations, right? Not everybody is necessarily motivated to kind of have their product be commercialized. Some people may be more benefiting from having papers, especially the PhD students. Some people may be thinking about, if I can get a job out of this through a co-opship or through an internship, like the postdocs. I think those are the kind of things you have to keep in the back of your mind. So when those opportunities arrive, you have to connect your team members to those opportunities because that's their reward. And certainly, as a leader of the team, or at least as a co-leader of the team, it falls on you to kind of create a positive and encouraging environment.
So it takes, thank you so much for your answer. And you said about both success and failure. So like, is there any takeaways or any key points from your experience on the failures you faced and some of the points which you consider that contributed to your success in this innovation journey?
Yeah, I think just having a generally positive attitude goes a long way. So I try to really create a positive environment, both for myself, for my team members. Because at the end of the day, what's the point of doing all this if you're not going to enjoy it, right? So you really have to make it fun, and a journey full of curiosity and fun. So I think that's kind of been my mantra. Now, as far as the failures, it can be challenging sometimes to pivot. But I think anytime you try an experiment or you try a certain product or certain project and it really kind of hits the wall, you have two options. You can either wrap up completely, or you could try to salvage it by pivoting to a slightly different area. My general strategy is the latter, which is I never really, because I feel like there's a lot of effort being spent, I never really throw it away completely. I typically end up pivoting, and I think some of those have led to good opportunities. But you have to be willing to kind of hand it off to someone else to really run with it.
Okay, thank you so much for that.
So we have explored your startup journey, and thanks for sharing us all the inputs. Let us now look at your other dimension, the mentorship. So how is the Spine Fellowship at Johns Hopkins? Is it a 1 year or a 2 year program? What is the kind of exposure that the fellows get in terms of surgery and research during the program?
Yeah, thank you for asking, Giri. We have a fantastic fellowship in spinal surgery. I'm the fellowship director, and I'm really proud to work with some outstanding fellows from the area of spine surgery who are really future leaders. We take both orthopedic surgeons and neurosurgeons as our fellows. We typically take 3 or 4 fellows a year, and these are some of the most competitive fellows from around the country, and they really are very well trained. As part of the fellowship, each fellow does about 300 to 400 surgeries during the course of the year. And of those, about 2/3 are complex spine. So it's a lot of very complicated, a lot of them are scoliosis surgeries, a lot of them are spinal deformities, revision deformities, tumors, osteo. So a lot of kind of complex spinal reconstructions. About 1/3, I would say, are more bread and butter and routine surgeries, but that's just because of our case mix, with what we see and what the fellows take on. It's a great opportunity. People generally come in very well trained already, but then the fellowship is a way to enhance those skills and take them to a higher level. I think the other really good thing we focus on is the education aspect. We spend a lot of time with our fellows educating and really kind of doing didactic teaching. And we do that 3 times a week. So Wednesday morning from 6 to 7 a.m., we do on a rotating basis a lecture. Where the fellows lecture, they have to prepare a lecture, and then the faculty kind of mentor that or proctor that. Then the next Wednesday is the faculty lectures. The third Wednesday is a research conference where we do a kind of a department-wide or division-wide research conference. And then the fourth Wednesday is journal club, where we do a spine-specific journal club. Then on Thursday mornings, we usually have departmental grand rounds and M&M, and that's a very good opportunity for the fellows to engage in and learn from. And then Friday morning is probably the kingpin of our educational curriculum. So from 6 a.m. till about 8 a.m. for 2 hours, we do what's called indications conference. The first half hour, we show every single X-ray from the week prior of all the surgeries that were done. And, a lot of them are routine X-rays, so it's not a lot of discussion, but some of them have a lot of discussion and a lot of learning opportunities, technical issues, technical points, and that's really insightful. And then from 6:30 to 8, we review all the upcoming cases for the next week. and we go through the indications. And that's where I think really the fellows grow in their ability to understand the principles of spine surgery, because we have to discuss why a surgery is done, why a certain approach is being taken, what are the alternatives, what would happen, what is the literature, blah blah blah. And it's wonderful, and I personally learn a lot from that. So that's how our fellowship is set up.
Thank you so much for the detailed elaboration on the structure of the fellowship and the opportunities that the fellows have in this fellowship. So this is a complete fellowship program, or we want to know if there is an opportunity for visiting fellows or a short-term observership in your institute.
Yeah, we have a couple of different programs through which that can happen. Unfortunately, the visitors are not able to scrub, so they cannot participate in surgery itself, but they can observe, and they can kind of watch or hang out, and they can certainly participate in all the educational contents, both the morning lectures and so on. And during surgery and clinic, they can just be observers. And that's a great opportunity. We get that year round, so we have lots of people coming in and out. Most of the time, it's for a month. Every now and then, if somebody comes in for a whole year or 6 months and so on, but that requires a little bit of a special process. But in general, yeah, we do this all the time.
Is there any pathway how it could be reached, or how does the fellows get in through for this short-term fellowships? Is it available in the university website, or is there we should apply straight away to the mentors, or how does it work at Hopkins?
Yeah, I think there's a formalized university pathway for credit, which is usually focused more on medical student and resident exchange. I think for the fellowship level, it's on a more individual basis. So if somebody's interested, contact one of us, and we can certainly help facilitate.
Okay. What is the research ecosystem in the institution? So do you get research fellows from abroad to work on research projects for a year or two, and are they paid for the work they do? How does it work?
Yeah, thanks, Gary. Yeah, we have a really fantastic research ecosystem. It consists of both the basic sciences, the translational sciences, and the clinical sciences. And there's a lot of collaborative work that happens between the three. Now, on our end, I'm an orthopedic surgeon, so I do a lot of surgery, and I'm very busy with that. So I really rely on the research fellows to do a lot of the clinical research and kind of move a lot of projects along. Typically, it's somebody who is between third and fourth year of medical school, applying into orthopedics, who is interested in spending a year doing research. Orthopedic surgery residency is very competitive in the US, so it's very challenging to kind of match into orthopedics. So the research year augments that person's CV. It also gives them opportunities to kind of learn the Hopkins ecosystem, and then it really allows them to shine and be productive during the course of the year. My research fellows typically, work with me as well as one or two other people, whoever they want, and they typically do somewhere between 10 to 15 publications during the course of the year, so about one a month. And it's a great model, and I had the research fellowship for about 5 years now, and each year I get great people. Now, your question was about abroad versus the US. I think some of these depends on the political climate. So lately, we have been more US focused, but historically we have had people from international areas who were research fellows. As far as their salary, some of that also depends on what the current political climate is and what the funding opportunities are. So for example, if we have a specific NIH funding that's allocated for this purpose, then that may be applied to a US person. If we have an international person, sometimes the NIH funding doesn't work for that, so we have to kind of think about other opportunities. One mechanism that has worked in the past is sometimes surgeons take a sabbatical from their home program, their university, etc., and they actually come in funded. So they have their own independent funding, and that's actually probably the easiest path, because it's a win-win, right? Because then Hopkins doesn't have to carry the cost of having somebody come, and that person's university is sponsoring them, and they're happy because they're going to come back to the same home institution and bring that knowledge back, and really kind of help accelerate their home program.
Thank you so much for explaining the fellowship opportunities and the things available at Hopkins for the fellows. We want to give you a takeaways. Like for an young orthopedic surgeon who is passionate about innovation and he doesn't know where to start. So what would you advise him? if a fellow is coming and asking you, I am very much interested to innovate something, so where do I start? That is his question.
I think the best thing to do is pick an area you're interested in, develop a passion around it, become knowledgeable around it, build some collaborative teams by discussing with others, become part of a society or part of a study group. I think all of these are ways to kind of get involved and get started. Once you get started, the world is your oyster, because then you can have lots of other things that come your way. But the hardest part is just getting going. So I think I encourage everybody, sometimes it feels daunting to look at the journey ahead, but take the first step.
How do you balance your roles, Dr. Amit, as a clinician, researcher, innovator, and also as a mentor? So how do you balance these roles?
Yeah, I think that's probably something I spend a lot of deliberate time doing, Gary. I really think about, what's important, what's urgent, and then being able to balance the two. I feel that in order to be successful and feeling of that I'm making progress, I want to succeed in all three of the aspects: education, research, as well as clinical work. And then I think it's important for me to also be a leader in all three of those areas. So I really try to kind of divvy up my time accordingly, so that I'm making important contributions and moving the needle forward in the tripartite mission. And I think a lot of people pick one area that they go really deep in, and I think that's wonderful. That's excellent and something that's commendable. For me, I like doing all three, so I try to really figure out a way to do that.
Thank you for your time so far. I think we have asked you most of the questions that we wanted to ask. Satish, do you have something in mind to ask?
Yeah. We literally gone through all the sections we had in mind to get the answers out of you. Sorry for taking a lot of your time. Thank you so much for being a patient, patiently answering all our questions in detail so that it is beneficial for our audience. Thank you so much.
My great pleasure, Satish, and great meeting you both, and all the best to our audience, and all the best to both of you, and looking forward to more collaborative opportunities.